Hi everyone, great to see you all. Thanks for having me here. I'm really pleased to be able to present to you today. Yes, my name's Dan Watson. I'm a designer, but I'm also a CEO. I am also a fishing industry expert, and I'm also very confused, but happily confused. But why? I'll explain. So my background is in design, and I'd like to start on that, and then I'll talk a little bit about how I got to the point where I was running a company, and then where that company is today, and what our plans are for the future. So design. What is design? It's kind of everything around us. So if you look around this room, you'll see people wearing fashionable clothes. You'll see unfashionable clothes too. You'll see bags, you'll see electronics and consumer design, fashion. You'll see transport, the way that you got here today. Cars, Mike's bicycle wheel, maybe the aeroplane you flew in on. Graphic design outside, you'll see our faces on the wall, big and multicolored. Thank you for that. And it's sort of, the way that we use design, or I've always used it in my career, has been to say that it links creativity and innovation. It shapes ideas to become practical and attractive propositions for users or customers. Design may be described as creativity deployed to a specific end, to achieve something. And it's asking questions about the world around you and how that you can understand it and what you can do to affect it. So who, what, where, when, and how do we make a difference? And it can look a bit like this. So you start with this big research area. You're looking for problems. You're looking for things that are different in the world. What's your problem? Not in an aggressive way, but what's making your life difficult or easy or otherwise? And then maybe you design something and you put it together and you say, this is a way I want to address this. So does this work for you? Does it fix it? Let me know how I can do better. And then even then, once you've got something that you think you can give to the world and to lots of people to help solve their problems, that's going to change because you're going to find new and better ways of doing this. The problem's going to change. You're going to have to respond and always updating. So you end up in this spot in the middle of things like technology, where can we actually make this thing? Is it feasible technically to do this? Is there a business model behind it? Is this actually going to provide enough value that someone wants to pay for it, that they'll give me something in exchange for what I give them? And then also human values. Do people actually want to be seen using this? Is it something that's desirable? Am I going to want this myself? Is my neighbor going to want this? So in the theme of today, I've seen a lot of pictures of kids. This is where it started for me. Started very small, thinking big, taking things apart, trying to put them back together again, not always succeeding. And this took me through school. It took me to university, where I worked on projects around design and engineering. And worked on things like consumer products and very sort of theoretical things, usually with the human in the middle of it, so looking at human tendencies and activities. So some of it was to do with security and passwords. I made a thing that looked like Robocop that I got my friends to wear, and it looked kind of cool, but the idea was to build a suit that could mimic how it felt to feel an emotion physically. So it was a very experimental project, just exploring how that could work in terms of mechanical stuff and electronics. And then I went into the world of work and started again working with humans, but in a different way. So I worked with an artist who was trying to take human dancers, very famous dancers who were very good at their job, and trying to replicate what they did in a machine, in an industrial robot that could move in a particular way, but not like a human. Next up, the space industry, a bit more abstract, but humans on a very big scale. So now we're thinking really big. We're thinking from outside the planet, looking down. And this was looking at satellite technology. So how do we take data and do cool stuff with it? So I got to build a team of people for the first time in my life, which was terrifying. Small team, big goals, and worked in ways that you're probably quite familiar with, using brainstorming and ideation and prototyping. And the cool thing was we got to do things with satellites, we got to look from the outside, we got to work with really beautiful imagery like this. This is a lake in China, lots of different colors and things on there. The scale of it is huge. This is plankton off the coast of Denmark, and you can see it from space, and these swirls and patterns show on a large scale something that's actually quite small, but you can start to see it from a different perspective. And you can also do really useful stuff with this. So this is a set of fields in the US. And if you look in the near infrared, you can start to see which crops are healthy, which ones are suffering, and then you know more about how your crops are doing. Again, you can count a lot really fast, but in good detail. And finally, a similar thing with minerals. If on the left, you can see like a human would see the earth, and then on the right, you can see the different minerals shown in different ways. And there are other projects too around humans, but yeah. So This led me to the point where I had a bunch of skills that I'd learned on the way and could start to work on my own project, which I believed really strongly in, which was a project around commercial fishing. I know Thailand has a really large fishing sector, so hopefully there's some overlap here. And this project was called Safety Net. And it started because there was this article in the news. It was suggesting that overfishing was this huge problem, which it is, but there were no real tools that could be used to address it from the fisherman's perspective, a way to start catching more selectively. This led to some prototypes during my final year at university, and these prototypes eventually got into a competition, which they won, and it actually meant that we got some media exposure, and I was able to come to Bangkok, of all places, here. This is where it basically started. I met a load of scientists who wanted to try and use the technology in their own experiments, which really actually lit a fire under the project and meant we had some traction. So then, we now work with loads of different people. It's a very human-centered company, a very human-centered approach to the project. And we work with governments all the way down to people in single-person fishing boats to see if the technology will work. And a ton of prototypes later, we have something which we can use in a commercial setting, which I'm going to pitch to you now because it's the company. So, Safety Net Technologies. Who here likes fish? Please raise your hand if you like fish. Great, this is going to be a lot easier. So, this is Steve. Steve also really likes fish. He's a fisherman. And Steve goes to sea and fishes to try and keep his business going. But his issue is that he catches roughly 1 in 5 fish that he catches is not the fish he wants to catch. And because of legal reasons or because of endangered species, this is a real problem for Steve. And globally, there's billions of fish caught in this way that are not the right fish. So regulations mean he can get punished, and this is an issue for his business. And Steve wants to be a great steward of the sea. We want to help him. So at Safety Net, we design technology that helps to catch the right fish, only the right fish, protecting endangered species, sustaining the livelihoods of people like Steve and his family, and also ensuring food security for a population that's going to grow way bigger in the future. And we do this by looking at fish and their responses to visible light. So it sounds a bit weird, but I'm going to explain how this works. So if this side of the room, which is quite neatly divided, this side of the room, you are a Thai fish. You're a tuna, right? Big species in Thailand. This side of the room, you're another species. You are, well, I'm not sure if it's here, but let's say you're mackerel. Let's say you're mackerel. Why not? So this side of the room, you, as a tuna, you love blue light. You want to swim towards it, you love it. It's your favorite thing in the world. And this side of the room, you hate blue light. Does everyone understand? So you really don't want to be near it. So if I take our technology and I shine this blue light at the room, what's going to happen? If I shine it at you guys, you're going to come towards me. You love it. You want to be closer. So show me come towards me. Come on. Like swim towards me. Yep. Thank you. That's great. You're wonderful. Okay. This side, if I shine it at you, what are you going to do? No. It's like Dracula, right? Stay away from me. Don't want to be anywhere near it. Great. Thank you for participating. I appreciate it. Okay. Beautiful people. So, and this is our technology. This is Pisces. This is the device that we use with the commercial fishing sector. And actually, well, just to see quickly, this is what you just did, swim towards or away. And here it is in situ. So this is Pisces, 10 of them, on a commercial fishing trawler in a Spanish fishery. And we use that to very easily supply it to fishermen to achieve this goal. And as much as it sounds like magic, it might sound like science fiction, here's some of the things it can achieve. So this is a fishing trawl that was catching shrimp before anything was done to it. This is a usual fishing trawl. These silver fish are things you don't want. After we apply light, 90% bycatch reduction. This was done 40 times off the coast of Oregon with the same result every single time just by applying lights to the trawl. So you can see the level of the impact this is possible to have using just the technology that we have been supplying. And the cool thing about this, it's really, really affordable. It works on multiple types of species. It works across crustaceans and sea mammals and fish and seabirds. And you can simply change it by changing the wavelength and how the light is emitted. So that's the power that we have the opportunity to actually unleash on the industry. And we've done trials around the world. Last year we did 10 scientific trials, proving different species. This year we just started in January. We've got 5 commercial trials now with some of the largest fish suppliers in the world. And we are basically getting to the point where we can say to fishermen, we have these lights, take our lights and put them on your trawl. If today you want to catch cod, put your lights on in this way. Maybe make them red. And then you can attract the cod and repel the other fish. But tomorrow you want to catch haddock, so maybe make them green and flash. You'll get haddock, but you'll ignore the rest. And this is something that we're applying in lots of different gears. We supply the hardware as a service. We really want to know what works and what doesn't, so maintaining that relationship, again, with the human person using our equipment, we're able to get that data back and also provide a really valuable service to people that have regulations to comply with and families to feed. So at the moment, we've had around $1.4 million in grants that we've used to get to this stage and run our trials. We're still getting through there. We've had 10 scientific pilots to prove out different types of species and their responses, and we've got these 5 funded commercial trials this year. We've filed some IP and we're growing as a company, and we're just finalizing our seed round this year to help us grow further and have more capacity to have greater impact. And that's how Safety Net Technologies is aiming to make fishing brighter in the future. So to round up, I'm going to give you some advice you didn't ask for, but I'm going to say anyway. So if you'll bear with me. Through this process, there's been a few things that I've picked up. I'm sure I'm not the only one, but I thought I'd try and communicate them in some way that might be useful. So for us, it's been really useful to have media coverage. Most of the major relationships that we have now, including coming to Bangkok 6 years ago, came from media, came from people knowing what we were trying to achieve and how we were going to do it. So raise your luck surface area. Get out there, tell people what you're up to. Be confident, but also listen. If someone gives you some advice, take it on board, evaluate it. A lot of this will be very obvious to you, and I'm not trying to patronize, but it's helped. Admit when you don't know something, because there are some of the smartest people I know are the people who say, I don't know, but I'm going to go and find out. Because it saves everyone time, and at least you know where you are. Believe in your ideas, but make sure that you back them up with facts. This is a very science-based product. There is a lot of science and research that's gone in behind this, and we are now able to confidently say to people that if we put this in particular gears, it will do a particular thing. But when it started, we had to assume or tell people that we could do particular things that we wanted to go and try, and then we went and proved that they were real. Find a co-founder if you can. I started this on my own. I did it for 5 years on my own, and it was pretty lonely. It's not impossible, but it can be a lot easier to make decisions if you're working with someone else. And it means that you have a larger skill set that you can draw on. Again, not essential, but it could be useful. Figure out how to explain what you're doing in a concise and understandable way. I hope that's worked here. I'm not sure if it has. You have to tell me later. Figure out what you do and what you like about it, because you're probably going to have to do this for a while, and so you may as well enjoy it. Work as if what you're doing is real at all times. If you're going to say you're going to do something, maybe you should go find out if that's true, if the person who you're saying it about actually believes you and agrees, because they're probably your customer. Put yourself in the mind of your user, so similar thing. And ask for help. We wouldn't have got where we are today without asking people for help. My mum's favorite phrase is, you've got the no, go for the yes. If you assume no, that's fine, but you should always ask. And finally, this might be the most important one. Take care of yourself. You are probably the only person who's going to be driving your idea forward for a while, because you have to get those people who believe in you and are willing to help when you ask. So you need to make sure that you're in a place mentally and physically and otherwise to drive it forward and actually do it with confidence. So I would say take care of yourself where you possibly can, because you're going to have to keep this going or your idea will more than likely die. And on those inspiring last words, I thank you for your attention, and yeah, good luck with all your work. Bye.